Hey guys, welcome to the Cell Organelle Workshop. It looks like everybody is here. Hi, Alexis. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to compare the structures and functions of plant and animal cells, including those major organelles. And I know we went over this last week, but reading over some of your stories and looking at your assessments, I feel like there's a little more work we can do just to clear up a few misconceptions. So, what I want to do is really hear from you before I start talking too much. So, we're going to go over to a Jamboard. So, you've got the link to the Jamboard in the chat. If you guys will swing on over to the Jamboard, what I want you to do is help me fill this in. We have two categories. We'll come to that in a moment. We have the got it, know it section for things that you know, you understand, you don't feel like you have any questions about, and the need it, want to know section. So what you're going to do is create a sticky note. You'll come over here to this little square with the two lines on it. Click on that, and you can type something that you feel confused about. Or something you thought you understand. And you're going to save it, close this box, and then just drag and drop this wherever you need it to go. So I'm going to give you guys just a couple of minutes to create your own pieces and to add onto this board, and then we'll go over what you have to say. So what I am seeing is that most of you actually feel comfortable with the nucleus and the chloroplast, and things that you would like to work on a little bit more are plants versus animal cells that you keep getting them mixed up, the mighty things, and then cell walls, what do they do? So this really matches up well with what I saw looking through your assessments and your stories. I did feel like you guys were doing really well, the nucleus and the chloroplast, which is great. But there was some confusion with plants versus animal cells. And then we'll also take a look at the cell walls. Okay, so we're going to switch over to our slideshow very quickly. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is one of the pairings of terms that I felt like as a group we need to spend a little more time on. The cell membrane versus the cell wall. Now, the real clue to what these two terms are going to mean and what's different about them is in the term itself. You have the membrane versus the wall. And in your head, this should create two very different pictures. You picture membranes being sort of soft and flexible, and a wall is very rigid and strong. And that's exactly what's going on with the cell membrane versus the cell wall. Cell membranes are going to be found in all of our cells. They surround the whole cell and determine what enters and leaves the cell. And cell walls are only found in plant cells because they need that extra support. Now, if you were going to build a house, you wouldn't say, we need some extra support over here. Let's throw in a membrane. Because you know that membranes aren't as good at supporting things as a wall. So another way to picture this is to picture the cell membrane like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Okay, so you guys know that moment? So the big fire demon thing is coming and Gandalf takes his staff and he goes, "You shall not pass." And he stabs his staff in that walkway thing and it crumbles and the demon falls into the fiery pit. And if you haven't seen it, you can catch it on the movie. Okay, but that's our cell membrane. Okay, it's determining what enters and leaves the cell. Now, the cell wall, on the other hand, is mostly about support. And it's only going to be in the plant cells. Animal cells use some other support mechanisms, and plants rely on their cell walls. Another pair of terms that I felt like we were struggling a little bit with was the cell membrane versus the nuclear membrane. And this is another case where the terms themselves give us really great clues. When we look at the cell membrane, it tells us what is surrounded. It surrounds the whole cell. The whole cell is surrounded by the cell membrane, while the nuclear membrane surrounds only the nucleus. Okay? Cell membrane surrounds the whole cell. Nuclear membrane surrounds just the nucleus. So if we take a look at this diagram, can anyone really quickly tell me, is this a plant cell or an animal cell, and why are you thinking that? Garen, could you help me out? Okay, great. So Garen has pointed out there's no cell wall. We just have this sort of curvy outer membrane. That's just the membrane. There's no wall, so it's not a plant cell. That's a really good point, Garen. Anything else? Alexis. Okay, good. Alexis pointed out that lots of plants have that really big vacuole, the central vacuole, and that's missing here. This is probably not a plant cell. Both really good points. Okay, so we have an animal cell here. We have a nucleus in the middle, this sort of dark area that has a membrane around it. That's the nuclear membrane. It separates the nucleus from the rest of the cell. It actually helps control what enters and leaves the nucleus. And then out here, we have the cell membrane that surrounds the entire cell, determining what enters and leaves the cell. So the nuclear membrane keeps the nucleus separated from the rest of the cell, and the cell membrane separates the cell from the rest of its environment and controls what enters and leaves from that environment. All right, guys, we're going to shift gears now. I have an activity for us to work on as a group, and then you're going to do some of it on your own. We're going to go over to this coloring sheet. Now, for this coloring sheet, what we're going to be doing is looking at the definitions of our cell organelles and sort of trying to get a visual for what they're doing. So if you'll look here, we have the names of all the cell organelles with these nicely color-coded numbers beside of them. We have descriptions of what different organelles do, and we have these cartoons that help illustrate the function of different organelles. So we're going to work our way through this very quickly, and then I'm going to let you guys take a look at it yourselves. So for step 1, place a leaf beside the organelles that are only found in plant cells. Now, there are only 2 of these, so can I get somebody to help me out? This is a drag and drop activity, so where should I drop off this leaf? Can anybody help me out? All right, Mason, what do you think? Okay, Mason said to drop it off beside the chloroplast. Great. Does everyone agree that chloroplasts are one of those organelles that are only found in plant cells? Just give me an answer in the chat. Good. Good. So chloroplasts are those green organelles. They're only found in plant cells. So we're going to leave a leaf beside of them. And then we're going to go to step 2. Use the color number codes shown in the organelle key. So here beside chloroplast, we have this sort of purpley blue number 2. So here it is. To correctly match the descriptions below to an organelle. What we're going to do is drag this number 2 and put it in the square where it belongs. So for a chloroplast, do they can control cell activities and contain DNA? Not really. They don't provide structure and support for plant cells, but they do conduct photosynthesis and make food, and they contain chlorophyll. So we're going to drop the number 2 that matches the chloroplast right here. Now let's go to step 3. Use the color number codes shown in the organelle key, so this bluey purple 2 again, to correctly match the cartoons below to the organelle and function they most closely represent. So we're going to grab our 2 and drop it off beside of the picture where it goes. So I'm going to say for power plants, don't really go with chloroplast for me. They're not making power or energy. Columns, fish in water, skull, a water tower, a brain, a castle, a solar-powered factory, and this makes the most sense to me. So a solar-powered factory takes sunlight and uses that to make something, and chloroplast takes sunlight and uses it to make glucose. So this is a really good fit to me. What I'd like to do is go ahead and get 2 of you to help me out with this. We're going to skip step 1 because there's only 1 more leaf, so I want you to take care of that yourself. But I'm going to volunteer to help me out with step number 2, and you can pick any organelle you would like. All right, Matthew, which one do you want to do? The cell membrane? So we're going to grab this pinky purple one, and where should I take it? Okay, you said it controls what enters and leaves the cell and is the outer boundary. Great, so we're going to drop it off right there. Now, for step 3, use the color number codes. So which one are we going to put with the picture? We're still in the cell membrane. Let's see. Levi, can you help me out with this one? Okay, Levi said you could put the cell membrane on the skull. So why are you thinking that? Okay, because the skull surrounds and protects the brain. It does. But there might be one that's a better fit. I do see why you're picking the skull. Let's see what our other choices are. Let's see. Adeline, do you have any ideas? Right, it controls what enters and leaves. Okay, so Adeline said we can put it down here, the soldiers at the wall, because it's an outer edge, and they control what enters and leaves. So while both of these could be an outer boundary, I think the wall with the soldiers is more of a good depiction of the membrane because they're also controlling what enters and leaves, and your skull doesn't really do that so much. Okay, guys, what I want you to do is work your way through the rest of the worksheet. You've got about 10 minutes to do that. If you need the read aloud link, it will be in the teacher comments section. Go ahead and get this knocked out, and then we'll come back together in about 10 minutes. And if you run into any questions or problems, I'll be here if you need me. I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, thank you for watching my teaching demo, and I wanted to give you a better chance to really get a good look at this organelle coloring page. I've been really pleased with how this kind of document works. What I've done is put all the text that I do not want moved as part of the master copy of the slide, and that just leaves these images that don't include any editable text that can just be resized as things the students can manipulate. Now, what I would envision doing and what I alluded to there at the end of the lesson is that I would want students to either on their own or if breakout rooms are available with a partner, they're going to work with the rest of this worksheet. Then come back together as a class, and I have an editable copy of this document that I would share the link with students so they are able to physically move these pieces around. And I would ask for volunteers to start with. I'd call names if it became necessary, but ask for volunteers to help go through this activity, explain their reasoning, ask the rest of the class for feedback, sort of take a vote. Is this where this goes? Did you pick anything different? Because my big goal is to take care of those last few misconceptions that traditionally what I have seen here is from not reading the term very carefully. So I really want to embed in their minds how important reading the entire word is, not just going, oh, that starts with C, it must be this word, because there's 4 organelles that start with C. So I want to make sure they're completely reading the word, really paying attention to what they're reading. And then I think also the cartoon images, give them something else to sort of link this to in their brain that can be really beneficial and help them tie up all of those loose ends.